Good afternoon, students. This is for your BS 20001 class, and today I will discuss our immune system, the mechanism of host defense. Our immune system actually protects us from various challenges day to day we face. So here in this slide, you can see that those small cells in light blue color, those are some of our immune cells. Those are called T cells. And this big one here, this is a tumor cell. Here you can see that those T cells are attacking that tumor cell. And that way, immune system is always protecting us from various challenges. Now, I should discuss what are those challenges. There are many types of diseases. One big category is disease caused by pathogens. Now you can see that there are different types of pathogens like virus, bacteria, fungi, and protozoa. Common viral diseases are flu, hepatitis, polio, etc. So I'm not going to discuss in details about viral diseases. Rather, we have one dedicated class for virus-mediated diseases and how virus actually cause disease and many things. And if you concentrate on bacterial diseases, you will see that several common diseases, actually you know those diseases like cholera, tuberculosis, tetanus, etc. And the diseases mediated by fungi is little uncommon to you. So one common fungal disease is kind of skin disease called candidiasis caused by candida. And again, many protozoa, those are also responsible for several diseases like malaria, kalaza, etc. And the next category of diseases is autoimmune diseases. Here the problem is our own immune system cannot recognize which is self and which is non-self. That means our immune system should take care of foreign things, right? But the problem is if that discrimination between self versus non-self get lost, then we will develop some kind of disease called autoimmune disease where our own immune system actually attack our own cellular components. And the third category of disease is cancer. There are several known and unknown reasons involved in cancer. This is very difficult to discuss cancer in details. But during our last class, I told you that cancer is mostly related to uncontrolled proliferation of cell. And there might be different reasons, but today we will restrict ourselves only in immune system. Here, as I told you that viral disease we will cover in a different class, as well as cancer, it's very difficult to discuss in a very short period of time. So rather, let me discuss like few bacterial diseases and the introduction to autoimmune disease, and then I will come to our immune system. So if you see here, so here I'm trying to explain you the staph infection. This is very common. Sometimes you have like sore throat and problem in swallowing. And if you go to doctor's office, sometimes your doctor might say that you have staph infection. So this is caused by Staphylococcus aureus. So this is a bacteria and gram-positive bacteria, and which tend to aggregate in irregular grape-like cluster. Here you can see this is images of Staphylococcus aureus. This gram-positive means broadly we divide bacteria into two different types. One is gram-positive and the other one is gram-negative. So this is some kind of staining method. So if you stain bacteria, gram-positive bacteria will take some kind of purple blue stain, whereas gram-negative bacteria will be uh, pink in color. So Gram actually discovered this staining technique. So he discovered it. Now, if you see here, in this case, so this is a common eye infection. This is called stye. So stye is very common to our eye, and this is very minor thing. And the common treatment is you can take any kind of antibiotics like penicillin group of antibiotics. By this time, you know, right, how penicillin works. So penicillin actually prevent the cell wall synthesis. That means the peptidoglycan synthesis in bacteria. And as a result of that, bacteria cannot grow anymore. And this is very common choice of antibiotic. And the severe form of Staphylococcus infection, you can see here, this is a kind of very severe skin infection, but again, it can be cured by proper antibiotic. The next one, I will discuss about uh, Clostridium tetani infection, so which causes tetanus. This is very common to you. All of you are aware about it. Sometime if you get like big cut or something like that, then normally you go for a doctor's office and then you take some kind of vaccines called tetanus, right? So here, this bacteria, Clostridium tetani, this is again gram-positive bacteria, and they produce some kind of toxin. It's called tetanospasmin, and that actually interfere with muscle contraction, and that is actually deadly disease. If someone remain untreated, uh, this can be very, very fatal. Here you can see tetanus, also known as lockjaw, because in the infection stage, muscle spasm take place because of that toxin. I already told you, right? Tetanospasmin. In the most common type, the spasms begin in the jaw and then progress to rest of the body. Here you can see one image. So this is very common image. If you just search in Google tetanus or Clostridium tetani, you will get this image. So this is drawn by Sir Charles Bales, and they are kind of trying to show a soldier with tetanus. And this is due to because of, I would say, uncontrolled muscle contraction. And as I told you, tetanus is actually very fatal disease. So better if something happen, you should take some tetanus vaccine or you should properly take care of it. And another important thing I should mention here is Clostridium tetani is an anaerobic bacteria. That means in presence of oxygen, this bacteria cannot grow properly. So as a result of that, sometime when somebody get cut or deep wound, sometime doctor suggests to clean the wound area by hydrogen peroxide. But you have to be careful. Hydrogen peroxide can cause some other problem as well. But after cleaning with hydrogen peroxide, this bacteria might be destroyed. So that's why we clean like this kind of wound by hydrogen peroxide. And the next group of diseases, as I told you, autoimmune diseases. This is very interesting. Our immune system is protecting us, but you will see across the world, many people they are actually suffering from autoimmune diseases. And there are so many different types of autoimmune diseases. Here, we are just mentioning two common autoimmune diseases, rheumatoid arthritis as well as type 1 diabetes. In case of rheumatoid arthritis, a chronic inflammatory disorder affecting joints, mostly in the hands and feet. And in case of type 1 diabetes, it's a chronic condition in which the pancreas produces little or no insulin. So I'm not explaining this image, but you can go through it. But overall, what I want to say, if I concentrate on type 1 diabetes, insulin is produced from our organ that is called pancreas. And from the pancreas, insulins are secreted and that helps in glucose metabolism. Now, in case of type 1 diabetes patient, our own immune system attack those cells which are producing insulin inside the pancreas. Those are called beta cells present in islets of Langerhans. Now, if our own immune component kill those beta cells, then we will have very less amount of insulin or no insulin, and that will cause diabetes. So this is type 1 diabetes. Now slowly we will start talking about the immune system as a whole. I should tell you, immunology is very complex subject. At IIT Kharagpur, at different level, we offer immunology subject throughout the semester. But this is very difficult for me to teach you immunology just within like 1.5 hours. But I will keep it as simple as possible, and I hope that you will enjoy and you will understand. So immunology, the beginning. So if you see this scientist, his name is Edward Jenner, commonly regarded as father of immunology. So what he did in 1796, he demonstrated that inoculation with cowpox protects against smallpox, a lethal disease at that time. Okay, let me explain. So smallpox is a viral disease, and also I should say very deadly disease. Now, even before Edward Jenner, people observed that, but there was no good documentation. But actually, people observed before that milkmen, they don't get smallpox disease. From that point of view, it looks like somehow those milkmen are protected from smallpox. And later on, it was understood that cowpox actually protect this smallpox disease. And Edward Jenner successfully demonstrated that if you put some cowpox causing thing into a human, then that person will not get smallpox disease. So this is called vaccination. This process is called vaccination. That means you are giving or administering something to protect someone from the disease. Why this is called vaccination? Because this is also called immunization. So normally nowadays we say that we are going to take vaccine, or you can also say immunization. So this vaccination, this vacca, VACCA, vacca means cow in Latin. And since at the beginning that the first one like demonstrated actually originated in cowpox, and that was administered in human, and that prevents smallpox, and the term, that's why we call this technique uh, vaccination. Just year, and y-axis number of countries with one or more cases per month. You can see here, I already mentioned that smallpox officially eradicated in 1980, according to WHO website. And this is because of proper vaccination. And I should also mention that the virus which caused this smallpox disease still actually stored in two laboratories throughout the world. This is required because if something happened again, we can make vaccine out of it. And those two places are located, one in United States, and the place is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and another center, State Research Center of Biology, located in Russia. Okay, let me discuss about our immune system, the body's defense mechanism. Our immune system is a complex system that encompasses every organ and compartment of the body. This is absolutely required because we cannot ignore some of our body parts. We have to protect each and every organ and compartment in our body. We cannot just ignore our kidney or liver, right? So as a result of that, immune system should be everywhere, and that should protect us. The next point is to seek, identify, and kill invaders. Invaders can be of different type. It can be viruses, it can be bacteria, it can be different types of pathogen, it can be of different sizes. So, our immune system is highly adaptable. It can act against pathogen ranging from 30 nanometer to around 100 centimeter. Now, if I ask you, tell me some pathogen which are about 30 nanometer. You could probably say, okay, some viruses are should be 30 nanometer. Okay, that's right. But what about those 100 centimeter pathogen? So, apart from virus and bacteria, those are very small. We have some other type of pathogen like worm, particularly tapeworm, which are really, really long, and it could be around 10 centimeter to 100 centimeter even. And the next point is very important, that our immune system distinguishes between self and foreign and mount response to only foreign while preserving self. I should specifically mention here that our immune system concentrate more on to identify what is self and what is non-self. Because this discrimination is absolutely required. Otherwise, our immune system will destroy our own components or self components, and that will lead to autoimmune diseases. That's why this is very important job for our immune system. Here in this slide, we will discuss about the mechanism of host defense. Broadly, we can classify our immune system in two different categories. One is innate and the other one is adaptive. So, we have two types of immune response. One is called innate immune response and the other one is called adaptive immune response. So, in this diagram, what we are trying to explain, if you consider these are some pathogens, you can consider those are some pathogenic bacteria. And now, if those bacteria enter in our body, then at the very beginning, our innate immune system will work against it. The innate immune response is very rapid, and the primary objective of innate immune system is to halt the infection. That means when they are entering into our body, our innate immune components try to prevent the infection. And another important thing is that innate immune system, they don't have memory. That means after some time, say for example, after 1 year later, if the same pathogen again infect this human, then our innate immune system cannot recognize the pathogen again. So our innate immune system will work from the very beginning. That means the same way it will act against the pathogen. It cannot remember that the same pathogen entered in this body 1 year before. In the meantime, when innate immune system is actually trying to prevent this infection, our another arm of our immune system, that is called adaptive immunity, that will develop and stop this infection. So you can say from the name itself, this is adaptive immunity. So adaptive means it can adapt. It can adapt on the basis of pathogen. So it is very specific to particular pathogen. But in case of innate, from the term itself, you can understand that innate, that means that immunity you have when you born. So this is from the very beginning. And the adaptive immunity actually, it can adapt on the basis of pathogen. So while innate immune response is working against the pathogen, by that time our adaptive immune components will try to understand what kind of pathogen is this and how we can tackle this infection. Based on that, it will make some weapon and finally it will clear the infection. So if you see here, the adaptive immune response is actually slow compared to innate immune response. And the important thing is adaptive immune response actually clear the infection. So you will get cured, totally cured, right? If your adaptive immune system is working properly. And the most important thing is that adaptive immune system uh, possesses memory. That means now when you get cured, but the same pathogen, if again infect like 1 year later or even 10 years later, our adaptive immune system will recognize very first, and that time we will not get the disease. Rather, our adaptive immune system will quickly clear that infection. So this is called memory. And in 2011, uh, Nobel Prize was given to two group of scientists who actually uh, kind of contributed a lot to understand our innate immune system and adaptive immune system. Okay, so in this slide, I will discuss about innate and adaptive immune response in more details. So here you can see that we are kind of trying to describe a plot where the x-axis stands for the duration of infection. That means the infection started here. This you can say as day 0, and as we are progressing in this direction, you can say this is around 8 to 10 days. This is 8 to 10 days. And the y-axis here, this is the amount of pathogen or the amount of microorganism. So at the 0 day here, when the pathogen enter in our body, you can see the load of pathogen is very low. Now over the time it will grow inside our body, and you can see that it is growing and growing, and finally it will reach at very high level, and then again it is dropping, and finally the pathogen will be cleared and we will be cured also, right? The disease will not be there anymore. But now, if we discuss in more details, you will find that at the initial stage, the bacteria is growing very slowly if we consider this pathogen is bacteria. So, from the very beginning, our innate immune system trying to prevent this bacteria or pathogen. And slowly, the adaptive immune response is also responding. So here you can see that from the very beginning, the innate immune response is working properly, and slowly the contribution of innate immune response is getting low and low, but the response from our adaptive immune system is getting high and high. So in this point, you can see both innate and adaptive immune system, they are working together. And finally, the adaptive immune system will work properly. That means now the adaptive immune system actually is aware how to handle this pathogen. And after knowing this, it will very quickly clear the pathogen, and then finally those pathogen will be cleared. And at the end, this part is very important. This is memory phase. As I told you in the previous slide, that our adaptive immune response, or in our adaptive immune system, we have some kind of memory. That means some cells which are actually part of our adaptive immune system, they remain in our system, and in future if we get infected with the same pathogen, then our memory cell will act very fast, so that it will not take that much of time. Very quickly, our adaptive immune system can clear the infection. As a result of that, we will not get the disease. Now, if I ask you, after listening this innate versus adaptive immune response, what do you think? I will ask you one question. Say, for example, in my lab, if I generate a mouse line, right? Mouse, and two different types of mouse. One set of mouse, they don't have innate immune response, and the other set of mouse, they don't have adaptive immune response. And definitely the control is healthy mouse. So what do you think? Which mouse group will survive better? The mouse without innate immune component or mouse without adaptive immune component? Yes, very difficult to answer, right? Here, this is the diagram. If you see, this is again the same kind of curve. X-axis represent duration of infection. Again, you can just think this is 0 day and this is 8 to 10 days. And the y-axis is level of microorganism. And this yellow curve, this is the response from normal mice. That means healthy mice. And this red one is coming from mouse that lacks innate immune components. That means if you don't have innate immune component, then when pathogen enter in our body, in this case mouse, then no one will stop that infection, right? I told you in case of innate immune response, it halts the infection. It slows down the infection. As a result of that, mouse without innate immune component, bacteria will grow very, very fast. Pathogen will grow very, very fast. And the mouse will die soon. But in case of those mouse lacking adaptive immune component, you can see the initial part is similar like normal mouse, because here we don't have major contribution from the adaptive immune response. So from this point, actually adaptive immune system working, and that's why the pathogen load is getting low, and finally it's cleared. But in this case, since this mouse, they don't have adaptive immune components, then the bacterial load will not clear, rather it will increase. But as I asked you, that losing the innate arm of the immune system results in more disastrous outcome than losing the acquired arm. Actually, you can generate this kind of mice in lab if you have a proper facility. This is again some kind of information related to innate and adaptive immunity, which I already discussed. So you can just go through this slide. And now I will discuss in detail about our innate immune system. So during this discussion, I separated this discussion in two broad ways. In one case, I will discuss about these mechanical, chemical, and biological factors involved in our immune system, particularly innate immune system, and the next part will be cellular component of innate immune system. So in this case, you can see there are many mechanical factors which are actually part of our innate immune system. Say, for example, I told you that innate immune system means something from the very beginning. That means when we born, these immune systems are already there. So, for example, skin. Here you can see skin. Skin is a very good protective layer, right? Skin is protecting us throughout our body. And as a result of that, we can actually prevent a lot of pathogen. And mucus. If you see here, like, I would say inside our respiratory tract, there are a lot of mucus there. And it actually helps to prevent bacterial colonization, pathogen colonization. It is very important for us. And The other one is like flushing action of saliva and tears. So these mechanical forces like flushing action of saliva and tears also clear foreign particles. It can be pathogen, it can be even dust particle, whatever it is. But those are actually helping us. Next, we will discuss about some chemical factors. Here you can see that antimicrobial peptides are also present in sweat. So that again actually help us, which prevent infection, right? And the other one is very important. I think I told you before as well that hydrochloric acid present in our stomach. So you will be surprised to see the pH in our stomach. It is very close to 1. That means very, very acidic. So as a result of that, when you eat something, sometimes maybe you are eating some bad thing also, right? Inside your food, you might have some bacteria, some other stuff. But most of the time, you will not get any infection because at this low pH, most of those pathogens will die. So this is very good for us, right? And again, the other chemical, or I would say lysozyme, present in our tears and saliva also help us. Here you can see that all those people are actually crying. I think that they are watching some movie or some kind of horrible movie. But what I'm trying to say, lysozyme, uh, previously we discussed that lysozyme uh, actually help to break peptidoglycan of bacterial cell wall. So as a result of that, lysozyme actually they have property, antibacterial property, right? And this is good chemical agent that can kill bacteria. And the next one is biological factor. So normal flora means normal bacteria which are present in our body. You can see here, like in our body, in most of the digestive tract, digestive system, that contain lot of bacteria, huge amount of bacteria. But those are good bacteria. We have more than 1,000 different types of bacteria, but that's why we are happy. We are staying well. As we discussed before, you will be surprised to know that if an adult person, if we have, say, for example, 1,000 cells in our body, total number of cell is 1,000, just for example. But 90% of those cells are actually bacteria. 10% are only our body cell. That means we have huge number of bacterial load in our body. And those bacteria are in good relation with our own physiological system. And that prevent colonization of pathogen or some bacteria which are not good. And that's why I told you before that for very weak reason, you should not take lot of broad spectrum antibiotics because those broad spectrum antibiotics will kill many of those good bacteria present in your body, and that will make you even worse. So that's why better to take antibiotics when it. Now we will discuss about our innate immune system in context to cells, right? That means cells of our innate immune system. Previous slide, you can see many different types of cells. You don't need to remember all of those stuffs, but only few things you need to. Here you can see this neutrophil, macrophage, dendritic cells, and natural killer cells. Those are very important cellular component of our innate immune system. And here the functions are also mentioned, like neutrophil and macrophage. They are very good phagocytic cell. That means they can uh, phagocytose some other stuff. They are also called big eaters. That means they are always hungry, so they can eat something else. So here, in this context, what I'm going to say that these cells like macrophage, dendritic cell, they can eat even bacteria, like some pathogen, they can eat it. Okay, so let me explain how those phagocytic cells are helping us in preventing infection. So here I am trying to explain you what happens after a breach. So here you can see in this panel, so this is the skin layer and this is just below the skin. So this is subcutaneous tissue and here you can see the blood vessel. So if you consider that some bacteria are just present on top of your skin and due to some reason, if you get some kind of minor cut here, then some kind of local infection will take place. That means those bacteria will enter into the tissue and here in the tissue there will be always some kind of phagocytic cells. Those are called tissue resident phagocytic cell and those are mostly macrophage and dendritic cell. As I discussed in the previous slide, both of those cells they have the property to digest or to engulf this bacteria. So as a result of that, they will eat those bacteria and that way they will try to prevent this infection. But at the same time, bacteria they are also growing in number. So as a result of that, those innate cells like macrophage and dendritic cell, they will call more immune cell to come here in the site of infection. And in this panel, you can see that more immune cells, they are coming from the blood vessel to the tissue where the infection has started. And they will fight against those pathogens. And as I told you before, that these cells or innate immune components, they are trying to halt this infection. But in order to clear those pathogens completely, we need our adaptive immune response also. So this innate immune response actually help our adaptive immune system to act properly against this particular pathogen. Now, in the next slide here, you can see that whatever I discussed in the previous slide, here you will see in terms of symptoms. So what happens after a breach? So as I told you, the first point here is vasodilation. Vasodilation means that when the local infection starts there, then our blood vessel will get dilated and that will result into the increased blood volume in that area. As a result of that, those area will be little bit red and some heat generation should be there as well. But this is good for us because this vasodilation increase the vascular permeability and that will help to bring more immune cell in the site of infection. And as a result of that, as a result of vasodilation, some leakage will also be there. That means leakage of fluid from blood vessel and resulting in swelling. So these are the symptoms. That is called inflammation. That means you will get some heat, redness, swelling, and pain in the area of infection or site of infection. But these are good. That means our immune system is working properly, and that will help us to halt the infection, and it will give time to our adaptive immune system to work against the pathogen. Okay, so as I told you that after initial response from our innate immune system, our adaptive immune system will take care of this infection. Then I would like to discuss how this innate immune response actually help to bring adaptive immune system to take care of it. So in this image, as you can see that here the infection started as I discussed before, and then innate immune system is handling this infection, and slowly our adaptive immune system is taking care of this infection, and finally it will clear the infection. So here the transition from innate to adaptive immune response. So as I told you, these cells like neutrophil, macrophage, dendritic cell and natural killer cells, those are very important innate component or innate immune cells. But these two cells, macrophage and dendritic cells, those are also called antigen presenting cell. They have good property, so they are the connector between innate immune system or innate immune response and the adaptive immune response. So what happens? So when this innate immune response is going on, during that time, macrophage and dendritic cell, they engulf those pathogen, or you can say those bacteria, and as a result of that, they will digest those bacteria inside the cell, and finally they will present some small peptide. Those are called peptide antigen on the surface of those cells through one type of protein that is called MHC or major histocompatibility complex. So as a result of that, when they are presenting those antigenic peptide on the surface of those cells, then they will recruit our adaptive immune cell like T cells. And then our adaptive immune response will be started, and adaptive immune system will take care of this infection. Here you will get some information about our adaptive immune system, which is very precise and powerful defense mechanism. All of those points I have already discussed before. You can just go through it, which will help you to understand the rest of the discussion. Here, I will concentrate on immune cells and lymphoid organs which are relevant to our adaptive immune response. So here you can see I mentioned two defined types of lymphoid organ. One is called primary lymphoid organ, which are in red color here in the image. You can see bone marrow and thymus, which are primary lymphoid organ. And secondary lymphoid organs in blue color, the major secondary lymphoid organs are like spleen and uh, tonsil. And the bone marrow contains blood forming stem cells, and that makes B cell, innate cells, and all other blood cell types. T cells are also produced from the bone marrow, but they get matured in the thymus. That's why those cells are called T cell. T stands for thymus here. T cells. And B cells, B stand for they are originated in bone marrow. So that's why B cells. Those B cells and T cells, they are the major components of our adaptive immune system. Also, I should mention one important thing about this primary and secondary lymphoid organ. So primary lymphoid organ, they produced those immune cells, and the secondary lymphoid organs, they store those immune cells. So one important thing is when you are suffering from some kind of, say for example, some fever, and if you want to visit your doctor's office, then sometime your doctor might want to examine your tonsil gland, whether they are swollen or not. Because when you are suffering in some infection, that means your immune system is actually working against those pathogens, and you have lot of immune cells at that time. And some of those immune cells are actually stored in your secondary lymphoid organs, like here in the tonsil and in spleen. And as a result of that, during the infection time, your tonsil and spleen, those are little bit swollen. And when you will get cured completely, then those secondary lymphoid organ, again, they will come back to their normal state. Okay, so far I have discussed about our innate immune components and how innate immune cell prime our adaptive immune response as well. And I also discussed from where we get our T cells and B cells. So briefly, some of our innate immune cells like macrophage and dendritic cell, they engulf pathogen and they destroy those pathogens, and they present some of those signature motif or signature peptide from the pathogen on the surface of those antigen presenting cell via MHC molecule. And T cell recognize those peptide loaded MHC molecule on the surface of antigen presenting cell, and thereby our adaptive immune system start responding against those pathogens. I will discuss adaptive immune response in more details in the next class. Thank you.